Well, there we go. That's good as we're gonna get for right now. Got some kind of annoying buzzing over here by the left door. Apparently this thing has quite a shimmy to it, so we'll go and see if we can tell just by the seat of our pants perhaps what's happening. I didn't look. I think this is four-wheel drive. Get it out on the big road. So I was thinking, if it is four-wheel drive, I see these Siennas come in sometimes with the rear U-joints seized up in them. And they can have quite a hitch in their giddy-up. Oh yeah, now we feel it, baby. So that is a pretty fast, pretty high frequency vibration. Kind of feel it rumbling underneath. It's hard to explain in the vehicle without having something to display what I'm sensing, but it doesn't feel like tire balance to me. It seems to be a higher frequency than tire balance. It does almost feel like a drive shaft. Let me get her up here a little bit faster speeds. But it's not really in the steering wheel per se. I mean, I do feel some vibration in the steering wheel. You can see the steering wheel oscillating. However, I think we have a couple things. I think we have some front tires that are out of balance, but I am a little suspicious of this drive shaft also. So this is kind of interesting. I just didn't have a camera on, but I hung a Louie back into town here and was accelerating as I was coming into town at maybe 10-15 miles an hour, making a left turn, and there was some pretty harsh thumping underneath the vehicle, in the middle. Perhaps. So perhaps we will hang it right here onto Old Carrington, then we'll hang a Louie onto the North Maple, and we'll see if it makes the same sound. It was like a, almost like if the U-joint was seized up and the drive shaft was bouncing in the carrier bearing, would be my guess. Let's see if it does it here. I don't know if it's not the same kind of turn. Oh, there it goes. You hear that? Hopefully you guys heard that. So that's kind of odd. I'll tell you what. Yeah, it sounds like it's whacking right underneath the car, and the only thing moving at that speed is the drive shaft. We're not going that fast. Oh, hear it again? That's quite interesting. Let's see if it does it after we take off just straight here, perhaps. Nope. So this is all very interesting. It has a newer drive shaft in it. This thing is not that old. To the point like it's not even rusty, folks. So it's very interesting. I mean, somebody's put a little spray paint on it, but overall, I mean, it appears to be like new. So, what can you do here, Erico? Well, I did notice a little something. Let me show you first before we get too hog wild here. I did notice right here on this center joint, let's see if I get you a little closer here. I know the furnace is on and it's making that weird noise up there in that door, but you can hear. So right in that joint, this is like a CV style joint. Sounds like they didn't put any, it sounds like there's no grease in there. I don't know if that, is this thing seizing up and we're driving it and, you know, throwing it out of, you know, out of sync. It's kind of odd that this is, you know, so clanky. I'd be inclined to unhook it from there. Prior to that, though, I think what we need to do is we need to call the customer. Oh, these drive shafts are supposed to be in phase or not, but it's not. You know, the U-joints aren't lined up with each other. I think the first thing we need to do is call a customer and ask when this was replaced. You know, was this drive shaft replaced in an effort to fix this vibration, or what? Or is this something that has, you know, come along? So let me get a hold of him and do a little investigating here, folks, before we get too deep. All right, so I just got off the phone with a fella. Evidently, I put the drive shaft in it about a year ago. So I looked it up, and I'll be dang, he's right. So we put the drive shaft in it, and I believe he said because the U-joints and stuff were junking it, or for some reason, maybe a carrier bearing. I didn't look through my notes to see why, but we had replaced the drive shaft. And he said everything's been great up until the last couple of weeks. And he says the more you drive it, the worse it gets, like it warms up, so to speak. So I'm wondering, I'm really wondering if, you know, if there's something binding in here. I think what we can do is we can unhook the drive shaft here. I don't know if we'll see anything inside this CV joint once you take it off here, because I think it's encapsulated. But then we can at least take the drive shaft out and drive it. Now I did explain to him, I think there's tire vibration, wheel balance, plus whatever's going on back here. He agreed with that. He thinks that, you know, his tires are out of balance, but this is something new. So I say we grab some tools, we unhook the shaft here, have a look. But that don't sound right, baby. Buzzes in that mirror, but boy, that's annoying. All right. As soon as we get the shaft out of here, I'll put the car back in park, and I'll shut it off so we don't have to listen to that. Wrong way, fella. This looks, I mean, the grease that's on these almost looks like it has metal in it. I think these were Loctited. I mean, it smells greasy, but they look sparkly when I'm taking them out. I don't believe they have never sees on them. There we go. Off she comes. See if that pops that cap. Oh, it does pop the cap loose. Oh boy. She is drier than a popcorn fart inside there. Look at all the rust and crap coming out of that joint. She's smoked, baby. I think somebody forgot to do their job. See if let me get a light. I gotta shut that key off. Hold on, folks. That's enough to make a man go crazy. Oh yeah, no, this is definitely screwed here. This joint, I mean, let's have a little gander here. So you see how dried up she is in there. Got lots of rust. I don't know who makes the drive shafts for Napa. I think this is Dorman, to be honest with you. I think it's Reebok's Dorman. We'll find out for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's who it is. But yeah, obviously lack of grease, or maybe the improper grease, but you can tell something's wrong. There's a lot of rust and dust and dirt and stuff coming out of that part of the CV joint there. Well, that's too bad. That's too bad, fella. Yeah, because she's full of it. She is full of it. Gosh dang it. Well, I guess what we can do, besides looking like a fool now, find out who makes this, if they're available. I don't think it was. I was looking on the way out. It didn't look too promising when I looked up on his bill to see when we got it. I think it was a Dorman number, but I'm gonna go double check some of this stuff. We're gonna find out what we can do. I think at the very least, the car can still be driven right now in two-wheel peel. And we could also drive it and verify that vibration is gone, and indeed we're only left with the tire vibration. What's up, Mrs. O? You're looking like a fox today, by the way. Oh, what does the fox say? Thanks for coming to see us, Mrs. O.
Yeah.
Oh, it's getting deep, folks. Real deep. The good news is, if there's good news to it, Dorman is off the hook. So, I had to make some calls. The original Napa number that I ordered was this 931502. That was the Napa OG number. Now that was the company that was making these for Napa is Napa, they just call it Napa drive shafts, Napa reman CV shafts. I don't know who the manufacturer is or where they're at. However, to get the new one from Napa, they don't even have it. They don't have it, can't get it. Boom, you're screwed. Have a nice day, fella. But when I looked up the 931502 from Napa, they said discontinued, reorder as a 67124, which is Napa OE Solutions, aka Dorman, which is this 936721 number. So I called my guy at Dorman. I got an inside guy. I called him. Great dude. This guy goes up to bat for Dorman, even if their products suck. Sometimes he takes care of it. So I called him, told him what the deal is. I told him this is not a Dorman. This is whoever Napa's original vendor was. However, because this one is junk, Dorman is their new supplier. They have to take care of this company's garbage. It's kind of weird how that works, right? Because they're Napa's new supplier. So if there's a problem with this one here, which had a limited lifetime warranty, they're now the new supplier of drive shafts. Dorman's going to take care of it. However, they don't have any. But the guy there doing me a solid. He's pushing it through. He's calling his guy who makes the drive shaft saying, hey, we need one of these for SMA. Get her done. So they're going to get her done. I'm going to take, well, the car's up in the air. I'm going to balance the tires on it. We're going to leave this out because the vehicle can be driven. Because I imagine it's going to be several weeks before we get this, even if he's, pushing it through for us. We're going to save all the jiggly bits and figure out the logistics of how I'm getting paid later. Not so concerned about that. But let's balance the tires. Then we're going to take this thing for a shake, and technically it shouldn't shake in theory. Take and get these bolted back on, folks. They all balance up. None of them were drastically out, like an ounce at the most. And I'll just say that to say this. These are aftermarket wheels, so these are what they call multi-fit wheel, multiple bolt patterns, gigantic hub hole. So they, technically this isn't correct. So these are going to be stud piloted. They're going to be piloted on just the wheel studs. Now, this car OEM and every other car we work on is hub piloted. The wheel is piloted to the hub, and that's quite a bit more secure than having all the weight just on the wheel studs once we tighten it up. With that being said, I want to keep saying that, but when we balance these, we balance them off the hub. Now I could use a pin plate and go off the studs and the hub. It gets messy. I don't want to say it gets messy, but technically this should have spacer rings that goes in here that takes up the distance and yada yada. Most people in our climate with the aftermarket steel wheels, you just slap these babies on and call it a day. But however, don't ever expect to get a perfect balance hub piloting them and then sticking them on the car and having them mounted by the wheel studs. You would think it would all be eccentric. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's not. And the other problem here is multiple style wheel nuts. So you've got your classic shank and washer style nut for an aluminum wheel. You've got the ET style wheel nuts. You got flange style nuts, and then you have what should be on here is what is referred to as an acorn nut or a conical style nut. I think we call them conical. So they're usually, it's your classic wheel nut, looks like an acorn, has a taper either 45 or 60 degrees. So technically, these shouldn't be going on here. This is a shank and flange style where it would pilot around the nut like this into the female hole of the wheel and then tighten up against the face of the washer. Now these do have a slight taper. Is it 45 or 60 degrees? This guy doesn't know, but I do know that's what this car came in with. So I assume this van originally has aluminum wheels. So therefore we cannot really think that we've got a proper balance because these are not going to pilot correctly. I don't think they're going to come flying off, but I don't think they're going to be smooth as butter. I'm going to take this car for a shimmy.
Okay.
Plan B, folks. I just douched it out a little bit in the parts washer. I'm going to take, yeah, the races are pretty chowdered up, and I'm going to take a packet full of grease. The guy wants to use it. I am slightly embarrassed. I'll be honest with you. I have used a lot of vehicles, and you know, well, of course we get a lot of all-wheel drive vehicles, but I've pulled the rear drive shaft on a lot of vehicles to diagnose vibrations, things like that. I can't say I've never had one not move. I've had a host of lights come on, you know, VSA lights, track lights, all-wheel drive lights, stuff like that's to be expected, but I've never had one not move, I guess. Oh well, first for everything. Of course, the dash on this thing lit up like a Christmas tree as soon as I tried to move it, so. But I'm just going to pack this full of grease the best we can without completely disassembling it. At least make it usable and quiet. We'll stuff it back in there while we wait for the new one. Guess I should have went up there and looked to see how the power transfer unit comes off the side of the transmission before I went ahead and assumed. But yes, without this drive shaft, it won't move. It's, you know, I hate to overstate the obvious at this point, but we could have figured that out by looking at it. Now these are indexed, just for the record, so these will only go on one way. If you're worried about having it out of time or out of balance. Of course, it was nice for this drive shaft, somebody had it painted for us. But the bolt pattern here is only a one-way pattern, so if you didn't mark it before you unhooked it, don't sweat it. I'm going to stick a couple bolts here in the back. Round two, will it move this time? Hey, look at that, we're moving. You ding dong. That thing is so loud. Fixed. So cruising at 60 or whatever. Wheels smooth. The car feels smooth. I mean, obviously we can't leave it like this, but at least we know what the problem is now. And that, folks, is that. Of course, we can't continue on this video, and I can give you 100% verification, get the new one, all that. But I'm going to end it here because I know we're going to fix it. We just kind of proved that. I wish I had a way to show you vibration other than a hula dancer grill on the dash. I suppose I could get one of those apps there on my phone that show vibration, but at some point we got to trust each other, you and I. Just trust me, it was vibrating. Now it's not, or not near as bad. Enough to prove the point, okay? So heed the warning about the wheels. If you're going to use aftermarket wheels, get the appropriate ones, get the appropriate hub spacers, and get the appropriate wheel nuts. There's the most minute amount of wheel vibration from the tires. Tires are pretty dry rotted, the ones that are on it, and then of course, you know, all the other problems I mentioned about balancing them versus how they bolt on the car. Whatever, skip that point and go right to the point of the drive shaft and how messy that can be when a manufacturer or supplier to your wholesaler, you know, in this case Napa, so whoever made the drive shaft originally doesn't make it anymore. It's been superseded to this new number, and now that new number happens to be Dorman, and now Dorman's got to come in and clean up somebody else's mess for a change. So thankfully they're able to do that. Unfortunately, you know, the supply chain of parts at this point in time in the year 2022, in the month of January, the supply chain sucks, and it has for a couple years now because of this Rona. Hopefully that's over someday, blah blah blah. But it's nice of them to take care of us like this, and hopefully we'll have one in a couple, 2-3 weeks. In the meantime, they're going to drive the car, and in the meantime, you're going to drive yourself in your little car down there in that comment sections. The questions, the comments, the concerns, put them down there. Put your experiences with the parts store. I always love reading those ones. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.